Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, it's David here and welcome back to another video. This one has been in the making for a long time. It has been on my mind for months at this point. And before I say anything else, let me just get this out there. Please respect my opinion. This is probably going to be very controversial. Let's keep it civil, if you don't mind. I'm going to read a lot of the comments and reply to as many as I can for this one, because I know it's going to be an interesting discussion. And it's about Final Fantasy, one of the biggest JRPG series, longest running series in the world actually for role-playing games. And I started playing Final Fantasy over a decade ago. It all started for me when I got FF3 for the DS, so the remake of FF3, and I kind of fell in love with this series. Now, once I played FF3, I played a bunch of other games. I played Tactics, I played FF10, 10-2, 13, 15, a lot of the spin-offs in between, the Disgaea games, for example. I played a bunch of FF games. I fell into the GBA games very quickly on my DS. I played all of them on GBA, and just so you guys know where I'm at with FF before I start discussing the topic for today, is I've been playing a lot of the games. Like, I played most of the Final Fantasy games to completion. I own most of them as well. You can see my collection behind me here, and I have all the Game Boy Advance Final Fantasy games complete in box, so I'm a big fan. At least I consider myself a big fan. And I think FF is not for me anymore for a lot of reasons. Not because I'm not gaming anymore, obviously still am, right? I have a lot of games to play, and I have all the systems. I have a PS5, a PC, an Xbox, and a Switch. I have all platforms. I love gaming, love RPG specifically. When you look at modern entries for Final Fantasy, let me just straight up say it, it's not as good as it used to be, for me, at least. But everything that I'm saying today is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree. The first thing that I want to talk about is obviously the change in battle system. And I don't want to make this a turn-based RPG versus action RPG debate. That's not the goal for this video, but I do still want to talk about this change for FF, which is a huge change, okay? And I watched a video a while back. It was why FF can't be turn-based anymore. I'll link it to the description. It's a very good video. And the content creator was explaining specifically what was his point of view about turn-based specifically, and I have to agree with some of the points that this person brought up. For me, I find myself enjoying turn-based games more and more as I grow up, and some people will say that's a boomer take. I'm 24, okay? I'm 24. I grew up with the GameCube, so I just love those old games, and I love those old systems, and I wish they were still a thing nowadays. The fact that games like FF15 and 16 are action-based, well, 15 not so much, but they're not turn-based anymore. Last real turn-based game was like 10-2 or something for FF. It's been a while, and in general, I prefer turn-based games. For example, I am a huge fan of RGG Studio at Sega, from developers of Judgment Yakuza, right? And they just switched Yakuza to Like a Dragon, and it is now a turn-based RPG series for the mainline games. And Yakuza being a top 3 series of all time for me, this move, for me, which is I am an RPG fan, and especially a turn-based RPG fan, this is amazing. But even when you look at Square Enix games, I find myself being more excited for a new Octopath Traveler than a Final Fantasy. And if I told myself that, let's say 6-7 years ago, hey David, in 6 years you will be looking forward more to a new IP, which is Octopath Traveler, a 2D game turn-based. You'll be looking forward to that game more than Final Fantasy 16, the 16th main installment in the FF series. I would have said, hey, you're crazy. But this is real at this point, and it feels weird for me to say this on camera. I hope you guys get where I'm coming from. And it's not all about turn-based, because hey, let's keep it Final Fantasy. FF7 Remake. FF7 Remake, I liked a lot. I liked it a lot. It's still not, again, it's still not what FF used to be for me, but I liked it a lot. And FF7 is not top Final Fantasy for me, far from it. It really isn't. I prefer a lot of other games like 6, for example. It's a way better game in my opinion. So I'm not this FF fan which is blinded by nostalgia, if that makes sense, okay? But FF7 Remake, liked it a lot. The combat system works really well, which is kind of like an hybrid between an action game and an action combat system and a turn-based combat system. I liked it a lot, and I am looking forward, and I certainly am looking forward to Part 2. Now, let's look at other FF releases, modern ones. 15. FF15 certainly is one of the pillars as to why I'm making this video today, because 15, I waited so long for that game. If you were in the hype train for FF15, it took extremely long for us to get that game. So many trailers, so many things, and for me specifically, while I cannot say it's a bad game per se, I can still say that my expectations were not met at all. I don't like FF15 anymore. Looking back on it, I just don't want to play it anymore. I have my copy on PS4, I look at it and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to play it for a bunch of reasons. It's kind of like FF16. We'll talk about 16 more in depth in just a second, but it looks very good. Other than that, it's like the characters were forgettable to me. Combat was insanely boring in 15. Like, oh my god, very, very boring. Very buggy as well at launch. Now they fixed it nowadays. I'm fully aware of that. The story I found extremely... I disliked it a lot. The story was... They tried to make it too complex for no reason. Ending was like typical Nomura stuff, and I'm not a fan. I really am not. Again, not a bad game. Just my opinion. In terms of FF16, now I'm recording this late August 2023. 16 has been out for 2 months, and even though I own a PS5, I have not purchased FF16 for a lot of reasons. Mainly, there's a lot of other games that I'd rather play. And again, this might sound like maybe you're hearing me out and you're like, hey, all right, you have other things you want to play. Let's say you were playing Zelda, for example. So that's fine. Thing is, don't forget, I'm a huge FF fan. I'm not supposed to be skipping a next mainline installment. Enough rambling, let me just get into my points for FF16 as to why I decided not to purchase it day one. And people are not gonna like what I'm about to say, and I'm just being honest, it is honestly in years the first time I skipped a day one purchase for FF, okay? To me, FF16 looks like every other Sony first party game. It is a cinematic experience focused on graphics, looking impressive. When you look at FF16, everything looks so great. It looks like I'm watching this movie. It looks insane in combat, in cutscenes, in dungeons, everywhere. It looks so good. It's a third-person game. It looks I know those are not the same game, but you put that game next to God of War, next to Horizon, and you're like, yes, similar style. And those games that I mentioned, Sony first-party titles, I cannot give a fuck about them. I'm sorry, I don't care. I really, really don't. They're not bad games. Not for me, I don't care. And when I look at FF16, I cannot... My brain just looks at it and it's like, yep, it's like those other games that I don't like, right? The combat, obviously, as well. I played the demo, I did. Combat was boring to me. It was boring, very simplistic. I know it's just a demo, but believe me, guys, I watched a bunch of Square Enix presentations on that game. Live presentation. I know stuff about that game. Watched a bunch of reviews, okay? But I have not played it, except the demo. And the combat, from what I played, did not impress me, and from what I've seen in other videos, I don't think it's gonna hook me either, okay? That demo really sucked, if you ask me. It was way too story heavy. If you are someone who just wanted to see what that game is going to be, you don't need to be sitting for 15 to 25 minutes watching cutscenes in a freaking demo, okay? Crazy stuff. Very Game of Thrones inspired in terms of story, and honestly, that game specifically, when you compare it to other FF games, I'm sure I sound very harsh, and it hurts me to record that video today because it's a series that I like, honestly, but that game it lacks identity. It lacks identity. It feels like it wants to do what Game of Thrones is doing. It wants to do what God of War and other Sony first-party titles are doing. It wants to be this big Western flashy experience. It's so far from what FF is to me, even if it still has chocobos, even if it still has a bunch of items that are in FF and stuff. I play that game and I'm like, it's a fine experience. It's a different experience. It's not what Final Fantasy is to me. And just don't feel the need to really play it anymore. The performance mode in the demo and combat was pretty clunky as well. I kind of wish they focused on important stuff like the side quest in FF16 being extremely generic and boring. Why didn't you focus on that instead of the beautiful graphics and all that cinematic stuff, which people like? Again, my opinion only. I look at FF16, it does not have a fun combat system like a Tales of game, like a Xeno game. It does not have the style of a Persona game. It does not stand out. And FF is supposed to be peak RPG. It's what it used to be for me. So, again, just my opinion. I do want to say modern FF spin-offs, they just straight up suck. They do. And FF spin-off used to be so good. Like FF Tactics. Oh my god, the Disgaea games on PSP, because Disgaea NT is a modern spin-off, sucks ass. The older Disgaea games were great. I had a ton of fun with them. I know I said Tactics, but both PS1 GBA versions are awesome, but also the DS remake is great. And I own most of the games in terms of the spin-offs because I like most of them. And in older FF games, both the spin-offs and the mainline games, all those games, they have like memorable moments. A certain character dies in 7, you go snowboarding right after. I remember that. The protagonist of FF10, Tidus, laughing in the scene, the infamous scene, I remember that. The opera scene in FF6, I remember that. FF15, I just remember how bored I was while playing it. And I have to be honest, when I play FF16, because I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, I will play it at some point for sure. Once it's cheap and once I have completed the games that I'd rather play, I will check it out. I will. I kind of have a feeling that, like 15, I'm probably going to be like, okay, that was a fine experience, that was alright, and move on, and I'm not going to remember much about it. There's a lot of things that I dislike about modern FF nowadays. Again, in 15, the combat was super boring. In 16, I found the combat to be better, of course, but it's still boring. Less and less RPG elements is something that is really, really rough. And I have to be honest, even with 13, 13 was kind of boring when I played it. I played it at 13, not 13.2 and Lightning Returns, only the original. I do want to give it another shot though on Series X with backwards compatibility because apparently it looks really, really good. But even after beating 13 and like playing 15 and now the 16 demo and now Strangers of Paradise and then the more recent FF releases like this, I'm like, was 13 really that bad? Was it? I don't think it was, because I'm looking at other games and I'm like, I'd rather play 13. People are not gonna like this video, but again, you guys, please respect my opinion. I wanted to get my thoughts out there. I hope I made sense and I explained my opinion in a decent way. Final Fantasy just, I think, isn't for me anymore. I'm still going to play the games. At least FF7 Remake is great and I'm looking forward to other parts. But when it comes to like FF17, whenever they reveal that game, I'm not going to pop off on stream like I would for a Persona 6 or a Dragon Quest 12 because FF is not what it used to be for me. Basically. Again, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I am going to purchase FF16 at some point. And hey, if you guys like this video, if the video does well, drop a thumbs up, drop comments, and let me know if you're interested. I could do a video talking about FF16 and my thoughts now that I've really played the game. Because again, I just played the demo and watched a ton of content on FF16, but I have not completed the game. So let me know if you're interested in me going back to FF16 in a video form once I beat the game. So FF, it's just a little sad because it used to be this peak RPG series for me. Day one purchase, all time. FF gets up on screen during a live stream at the Game Awards at E3. I'm popping off. I'm extremely excited. To now, it's like a franchise that I'm like, hey, let's wait until it's $20. It hurts me to say it, but this is just my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Check out my Persona 5 Tactica giveaway. If you would like to win a copy of Persona 5 Tactica on the platform of your choice, click the link in the description. It's for subscribers only. You enter your little info, subscribe to the channel, and you have a chance to enter. You can follow me on X for additional entries as well. You can choose your platform of choice for which version of the game you would like to get. Winner will be picked late September, so in about a month I will be emailing the winner. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, you want more content on RPGs, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell as well, and don't forget to drop a thumbs up and let me know your opinion on this topic that will be controversial, I think. You have a great one, y'all. Thank you for watching. Bye.